Welcome into the swimming season preview here on CHCAEagles.com through ESP Media, powered by Side Over Sports. My name is Jason Griefer. We're joined by swimming head coach Don Relag. Going to talk about the upcoming season in the pool for both the boys and the girls here today, since he serves as head coach for both. Don, appreciate the time here today. Let's talk about the boys first. Coming off their first ever league championship in the Miami Valley, it's a big, big deal. And the cool thing about it is, really solid performances, obviously in the league, but also in state last year. And you're bringing a lot of swimmers back from that team a year ago. So a lot of championship experience coming back here. First of all, coming into this season, what's the offseason been like for the boys as far as training goes? And what kind of improvements are you seeing from them leading into this season where they now are the defending league champs?
So I would say the off season was something a little bit different than a lot of sports, where the off season is dominated primarily by the swimmers belonging to their own club teams. So a lot of our swimmers belong to, they're either Countryside YMCA or the Mason Manta Rays or the Cincinnati Marlins or Blue Ash YMCA and teams like that. So a lot of the off season for those type of swimmers was really handled with those teams, and they're having meets for those teams right now, and the times that they're having are absolutely phenomenal. We're really excited about the times that they're having preseason because it's comparing them to how state has gone in the past and how the league has gone in the past. I think it's setting us up for a good place. As far as the people that are not on club teams, we've made a lot of headway teaching the new swimmers, how to do things like flip turns, how to do the actual stroke, butterfly and breaststroke and stuff like that. So we're actually making a ton of progress on both ends of the spectrum. So we're really excited about the progress we're making, off season and at the beginning of the season so far, what we've done.
How challenging is that for you as a head coach, not only trying to instruct the players, swimmers, I should say, who are not on club teams that you're working with directly, but also communicating with all of those clubs and keeping an eye on the times and maybe seeing some film and how they're doing and their technique in the pool? How's that been for you?
It's, having done this this is my 21st year of teaching, having done this for quite a few years, it's actually, it's not as bad. If you're coming into this new, it might be hard to keep track of, but we know where to look and who to talk to. And I would say having the right people around you to help out with this kind of stuff is phenomenal. Like, our the assistant coach that we've had for the last few years, Tim Fraser, is really, really hardcore on looking at times and doing stats and stuff like that. So he's got spreadsheets and printouts of everything they've done for the last few months. And, where I just kind of like eyeball stuff and look through stuff, and he's got it all written out. And I'm sure he knows what place we're going to get at state already this year. So he's been phenomenal with that. So that's been a tremendous load lifted off of my shoulders. To where I know he's going to be coming through with that information on stuff that there's stuff that I haven't found. And I ask him, like, Tim, where did you find this stuff? And he's like, well, it was on here, here, and here. And he comes up and then he's like, see, I've already written it out on the spreadsheet and the table and everything. And I've got their times and how much improved they were. And so it's actually been extremely easy this year, so I've got a lot of help.
That's good to see and good to hear. And also, as you said, as Coach said, he may have an idea of where you're going to finish at state this year. And I think because of what we mentioned, you have a lot of swimmers back on the boys team from last year. And one of which, of course, is Logan Aki. He was the swimmer of the year in the league, first team all conference, and not only individual, but also relay events as well. He had some solid performances at the state tournament. He's back, but just a junior this year. And obviously, as he grows and matures, more eyes are going to be on him. What's his maturation process been like from his sophomore year coming into this year, his junior year? And where are you wanting to see the most improvement from him?
Maturation process, I would say with Logan is kind of a tough thing to answer, because that young man was the most mature 14-year-old coming in as a freshman and the kid is he's outstanding. So, I mean, he's already signed with the University of Missouri as an early signee as a junior. And I'll tell you I honestly think he's got a chance of winning state in the 100 breaststroke this year, even though, there's a phenomenal freshman coming in from Indian Hill. Logan, his focus has been just absolute lightning awesome. Like he's intense on how good he's focused on what he's doing. And the one thing that with last year in state with how everything was with COVID, everything last year was so messed up. Everyone knows everything's been messed up. So they couldn't do the traditional prelim final format at state. So what happened is you get your 3 heats, and anyone in any of the 3 heats can be the state champion. So you could be swimming in heat 1, which I think we were either heat 1 or heat 2. Honestly, couldn't remember for the 200 free relay last season. But we're swimming against people that that are beating us in the heat after us and the heat before us. So you don't necessarily know where you are in comparison to them. So it takes a big mature like person to handle that as the anchor to our 200 free relay. Logan dives in, and we were behind by a good amount. We were either 7th or 8th in our heat, and out of there's 24 teams, and 7th or 8th in your heat is not necessarily where you want to be if you're trying to move up. And I have never seen him swim so hard and so fast. He was 1/100th of a second off of being the fastest split in the state in the 50 freestyle on that relay, and brought us all the way back. And we're counting up. We're looking at the next heat. We're counting them, and we ended up 8th place and on the medal stand because of how laser focused that young man was at the end of that race. It's unbelievable. You would have asked me how fast I think he was going to go, I wouldn't have been within a half a second. He was unbelievable last year, what he did for our team. And we lost one guy off of that relay as a senior, but we gained actually somebody who was a freshman last year who was injured with surgery. His name was Ryder Lakes. He's a sophomore this year and is actually recording times faster now than the person we lost off of that relay last year. So I see nothing but moving up in that relay. So I expect that we'll be top 8, on the medal stand at state on that relay. And you never know, with how good the other 2 guys are, AJ Viberts and Nick Davidovich, depending on how well they do, I mean, the sky's the limit for that relay. So we're looking at some pretty big things. So, and at that level, it's close enough that 7th or 8th place, or 1st, 2nd, 3rd place they're all right there. So this year, what'll be nice, hopefully, is we'll be able to get our spot in finals to where we're only swimming against the teams that we're trying to beat on day 2 of state. Because last year was only 1 day, and it just was not helpful for that kind of situation. I don't know if that answers. Hopefully that makes sense what I said.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, it's a very unique year. It was a year ago. And as you said, it was very tough to kind of negotiate how everything was going to go. You never know when stuff could get changed from 1 minute to the next. And, as you said, Logan came in and accosted himself very well, particularly, as you said, in the relay there. Are you seeing any kind of change in him as far as a leadership role in this team now that he's going into his junior year? Or is he still right now kind of more of a lead by example type of guy in the pool?
He is very much a lead by example type of a person so far. And now that we're going to start getting into our own dual meets in the season here, and the rest of the swimmers will start seeing him more. That situation will change a little bit to where they'll start seeing. I mean, honestly, if you knew the young man. He's the most phenomenal, wonderful person for others. Like he is just like he's offered to help out swimmers that didn't have suits that our suits haven't come in yet. And we've got swimmers wearing trunks, which is for a swim team is like wearing a parachute. So, I mean, he's offered to help those swimmers that don't have their trunks yet or their regular suits yet. And so, I mean, it's just that kind of has already been in place since his freshman year, and just now being somebody who's placed so high at state and somebody who is who's now a junior and an upperclassman is, oh, hey, we should look at our upperclassmen for leadership when it was already there to begin with. So he's just doubling up on it right now.
We look at the way things shook out a year ago. Before we started recording, kind of giving an idea what we're going to talk about here today in the season preview. You denied Seven Hills an 8th straight Miami Valley Conference title. We look at the way the state played out, and it seemed like you two just couldn't get away from each other at the state meet either. It was individually or as a team, as the rankings were coming in, as the meet went along there. So both teams, obviously very solid finishes at state, still some work to be done there, of course. So I'm wondering, with that, knowing that Seven Hills is there, you're now the team with the target on your back in the conference. How do you see that battle shaking out with Seven Hills this year?
I honestly see more of a battle this year than it was last year because of COVID. And there was a lot of swimmers at the end of the year who kind of, opted in or out of certain meets because they didn't want to jeopardize their run at state and stuff like that. And that's why I think you saw a better competition at the state meet between the two schools than at the league meet. But and you can't blame anybody when you've got people that are fighting for state championships, and they decide during a year where anybody can get, oh, you're 2 weeks in quarantine, and the state moves on with or without you. You can't blame anybody for not wanting to swim at the league championships when it has no bearing on your state championships. So I think that's going to be, and I think across the board with all the schools, much more of a battle this year with swimmers that did that did not, or that did opt out last year on certain meets. So we're going to see it a lot tighter this year. I know last year we almost doubled up second place for the boys at league, and that's not going to happen this year. I really doubt it. Even though we're stronger, we have a lot more swimmers, but it's just being the first year, hopefully back to normal. I just don't see that score being that way this year. But again, the target is on our back, and I think our guys are poised to handle it really well. I expect us to compete for that championship and win a second straight. And I think they're going to do a good job of handling that. So, because they know that last year was different, and this year is going to be, it's going to be a much more competitive year this year.
So they come in with the target on their back as the defending league champions. The girls are also the defending league champions. Let's talk about them now. First time they've won the title in 8 years, and we touched on some of the depth that you had back on the boys' side. How are you feeling about that on the girls' side? I know we've got Jessie Lee back, and we're going to talk about her in depth here in just a couple of moments, but how are you feeling about the depth behind her and what you have coming back, and maybe some new swimmers coming in that can try to help you defend the title on the girls' side?
So this is actually interesting. We lost great leadership last year with some seniors, phenomenal people that were there every day. The effort they put in, Annabelle Brock, Gigi Paris, just what we lost in those seniors from last year was unbelievable from a leadership standpoint. And we've been fortunate enough to pull in some swimmers, a couple of freshman girls that are off the charts phenomenal. And to combine them with the swimmers we have returning, we went from our relays 2 years ago, our medley relay qualified to the state championships. And I think we finished like 18th or 19th in that, 17th, 18th, 19th in that medley relay 2 years ago. And then last season, it just didn't work out. They didn't qualify to the state championships. So Jessie was there by herself. And this year, I think with the new swimmers that we actually have coming in, looking at the times that they're doing so far, I mean, not necessarily knowing what everyone has coming back, like Columbus School for Girls, they've lost some big swimmers. Hathaway Brown lost their number one, their state champion 50 freestyler. Looking at what all the schools lost, Hawken is always up there, with good teams. We have a relay that could possibly, depending on how the other teams shake out, fight for a state title in a relay or two. So the sky is the limit on these relays. So we're not talking about necessarily just qualifying to state. We're talking about qualifying, making the medal stand, and trying as hard as we can to see how high we can get on that medal stand. So the girls they're phenomenal. They're phenomenal young ladies to talk to. And again, with some of these interviews, I wish you could talk to some of these young ladies and young men that we have. That they're just phenomenal people, which says even more about them. And that's why I think they're going to do so well. They are about each other. They're about having a good time. They're about working hard. And I see nothing but impressive results at state this year. So hopefully everything works out.
Yeah, no doubt. And we'll finding out here soon as the season gets going here in rather short order here. One thing we talked about was Jessie Lee. And of course, she's back this year after narrowly missing on 2 state championships in both the 50 free and the 100 breast, losing the state title in the 100 breast by 1/100th of a second. So it's literally tap there in the difference there. After coming as close as she did to winning those 2 state championships at state, are you seeing any different kind of level of focus, intensity from her? Extra work in the pool to try to work on her technique, to try to improve those times and make sure that when she goes back this year, and it's a when she goes back, not if, that she's able to close the deal?
And again, it's funny, like if you knew the people that you're asking these questions about, it's they take care of this themselves. Like it's unbelievable. I've never had a team so full of people that were just so focused and so mature about the process. Last year was unique with Jessie because she was fighting for Olympic trial cuts, and she ended up getting her Olympic trial cuts and swimming in Olympic trials. So that was her major focus last year, which who can blame anyone for that being your major focus? Like that's impressive that she was able to make it to Olympic trials in the 100 breaststroke and do that kind of thing. And a funny side note to that is she ended up at Olympic trials, being disqualified in the 100 breaststroke, and she time trialed it the next day. And we're talking, this is in Omaha, so she swims in Omaha on Sunday, and she's one of my assistant coaches at 5 Seasons in the summer. On Monday morning, she is at practice with the little kids in the water trying to teach them how to swim. So she's swimming at Olympic trials after a hardship, after getting disqualified, and has the maturity about her to be at practice Monday morning teaching little kids how to do things. So she's one that she just gets it. She gets what what this sport's about. She gets what everything's about. So, fast forwarding to what we're going through this season, and even to mention what you're talking about, tap does not describe the 100 breaststroke loss from last year. I was standing at an angle where I could see the finish really well. I was standing right by the referee. And I had to look at the scoreboard to figure out who won. So it was one of those, you couldn't even see the tap. It was that close. Like I wish they could have gone to the 1,000th of a second to see how close that actually was. So I'm guessing they rounded up to 100th of a second. So you've got that, obviously she was disappointed with that last year. She was disappointed a little bit this summer, but her attitude, if you talk to her right now, you would never notice that there was a disappointment from last year, because she's so focused on what she's doing, and her times already this fall have been just absolutely phenomenal. I don't see, knowing Jessie, I don't see any way that I don't want to say that, but I don't want to jinx her. I just don't see any way that she's not focused enough to do what she has to do. Let's say it that way. She's the top returner in both events. The number one finisher in both of her events have graduated. So Jessie is the number one returner. Her focus is there. She knows what she has to do to avoid the things that have happened in the past. She knows, in a good way, maybe the disqualification this summer at Olympic trials was a good thing because she knows, hey, this is the kind of thing they're looking for. And if that's the kind of thing that's going to cost me a state championship, I want to make sure we correct that. And I think she already has. So I am not worried about Jessie's focus in the least. She is the hardest worker I've ever seen, like just period.
So she is obviously number one with a bullet this year for the team, and obviously, as you said, eyes on her across the state as well. So, with that said, kind of on the overall spectrum now, and talking about both the boys and the girls, give us a name or two that you expect to take a step up, or maybe has caught you by surprise, or maybe somebody that you're looking for that you need to come in and fill a void from a year ago and help you get to where you want to go.
So, like I mentioned with the boys' side, we've got Ryder Lakes, who we didn't get to see last year as a freshman with surgery, and is already swimming, lights out, phenomenal. We've got AJ Vibberts that he's a senior this year, and he's signed to swim at Olivet Nazarene University next year. We're looking for him to make some strides, and I think he's mentally in a better place. Not that he was in a bad place last year. I think he's improved his focus and now that he knows what's going on for college for next year, he's really going to sit down and focus and really, I think, do really well with his swimming here. We've got another swimmer, Jake Kasemeyer, who's already swimming really well. He's one of our distance swimmers, an IM/distance type swimmer. And his times are already improving a ton to where I think he's going to make a good splash. He's had goals of making districts because he goes sectional, district, state in swimming. He's had goals of making districts, and I think he's going to be able to start raising his goals to, being a district finalist, start placing at districts, making the medal stand at districts. So, and once you start making the medal stand at districts in the Southwest Ohio, you're talking about you're pretty close to making state. So we'll see how far he's able to get with that, but I think we're definitely raising the bar with him, and we've got some phenomenal new freshmen coming in. Sorry, I got my notes here on the side. We're up to 49 swimmers this year, which is unbelievable. So I have a huge list to look through. So we've got some really interesting, somebody that's brand new to us is, William Kuhlman, and watching him swim for the first few weeks, like we don't have to teach him that much. He's a brand new swimmer that doesn't know flip turn, and he's picking stuff up quick and is actually very fast. So, we're going to look for people like that to step up and make big strides. And it's, like Nick Wickler is again going to be a freshman he's done phenomenal in the past. We're looking for them to step up. On the girls' side, we have, we've got a senior, Alexa McFawn, who has been unable to swim for the last couple of years due to a couple of things that we think is going to make a good splash. She's a good butterflyer for us. So we have brand new swimmers, freshmen, and the two freshmen that will be on our A relay, which will be Julia Schaefer and Taylor Bacher, who, Taylor, her times right now in her events are probably going to put her on the medal stand at state in just her individual events. So she's going to make a big splash for us. Julia Schaefer, who's unbelievably talented, that I think is just now starting to come into how good she can actually be. And that's not to say she hasn't been good in the past. She's been phenomenal. And I think she's making strides at an impressive pace. So we've got them, Pete's Maria DiCarlo coming back is a good butterfly backstroker for us. The sky is absolutely the limit. We've got some, just some brand new people again, we've got 18 freshmen, 9 boys and 9 girls coming in. So, which that's a brand new thing for me, having that many freshmen. So this is going to be a fun year to have all these new swimmers. And it's, I've been in the water teaching them. We've had our other assistant coach, Billy Pohl, in the water teaching them. Like, it's been a lot of fun with the first half of the season. So, there's not enough time to say good things about what we're expecting for this year. So, like, this is definitely going to be, in my estimation, the best overall year that CHCA has ever had on the swim team, top to bottom. I think there's been other teams that have done well, but I think, and again, not to diminish anything that any team before us has done, but this team, with 49 swimmers and the quality top to bottom is unbelievable.
And we're coming off of each team winning the league championship and already feeling like now this year could be the best year that the school has had in the swim programs. And boy, certainly sounds like it by the way we're talking here, not only with the swimmers you have back, but the newcomers coming in. It's a lot of great stuff. Really looking forward to seeing what's going on here on the season, Coach. We certainly appreciate your time, giving us some time here today to talk about it, and we'll be looking to following the progress throughout the year.
Definitely. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. That is swimming coach Don Relag joining us here on the swimming season preview, talking about the athletes in the pool, both the boys and the girls looking really, really good. We're glad we were able to bring it to you here on CHCAEagles.com and ESP Media, powered by Sidearm Sports.
Go Eagles.